excited to have you. It's been a while since we've had you. You're still crushing it just as you have since day one. And we've always looked up to you. So first of all, thanks for joining us, Trey. We have a lot of new people on here, which is exciting because that's what we're supposed to be doing. So I'm just, if you could, for someone who doesn't know you, if you could kind of give your background, your story with FFL, that would be great.
Yeah, I would be happy to. Well, thank you. And there's no other call I would like to be on more than this call. I love this call. So, and you guys are doing amazing things. It's really cool to see all the growth and the amount of people writing, issuing a ton of business and just the amount of writers increasing and how you're just evolving the recognition and making it better and focusing on focusing on recruiting writing agents. That's brilliant. I'm going to go do that myself actually. So thanks for having me on. I really do appreciate it. My name's Trey. I got started with Family First Life in 2014. Initially, my whole goal was just to sell. I wasn't that good at selling to start with, but I stayed with it and I didn't give up. And eventually, I got good at it because if you just do something long enough, eventually you get good at stuff. And I started building a team really in 2017 is when I really started focusing on recruiting. And ever since then, it's been really good, and I'm happy to be here. I've never been more excited about doing the business as I am right now. For a couple years, the guy that recruited me, Andrew Taylor, I've worked in his office as his recruiter, and learned a lot about the business during that time, and just focused on selling part time. So I'm a big fan of people that do this part time to start out. I think that's a great strategy to do it that way, especially new people. Um, and unless your other job is like Uber Eats, like you just quit that and then sell, but if you work at NASA and it took you 11 years to get the job and like 6 degrees, you might not want to just quit your job at NASA because you had a good weekend in the field. That may not be a good idea, but it might be for the right person. You know what? If Grady was working at NASA and decided to stop after the first weekend, it would have been just a great deal. So, uh, so that's pretty much my story. I've been doing this now for quite a while. I still love the business. I love helping new people get started. And I've learned a lot about what to do, and I've learned a lot about what not to do, and how people overcomplicate this and overanalyze this, and the avoidance behaviors that they put in place before they actually do something. And so I've just been focused the whole time on the basics, because there's certain basics and fundamentals in this business that never change. It's you run, block, tackle, catch. The team that does that the best is going to be the team that comes out as the winner. Um, that's about all I know is for football, but it makes a good soundbite. So, uh, but that's how it works. It's the fundamentals. The fundamentals never change. And one of the things I think happens if you're new is it's so overwhelming in the beginning because there seems like there's so many different options. So the goal for me on this call is really to kind of help you get through the weeds of that and help you see this, 20,000 feet up in the air, what it really looks like, so that you can identify what distractions are and you can know a true roadmap of, what the next step is. So that's my purpose here in the next 20 minutes or 30 minutes, however long I have with you guys.
I love that, Trey. And thank you so much. And that's why, I see you flying around and doing, business opportunity meetings, which is so awesome, right? And I think sometimes people had this idea that the business has evolved so much. And I can't imagine, Trey, because you're obviously much older than me, Trey. You've been here a long time. No, I'm just kidding. But even since I've been here, like over the last 3.5 years, the business has evolved so much that I think sometimes we can get distracted and we're like, oh, we have this new software over here. There's this dialer, or now there's 3,200 different lead vendors, and then there's this thing over here, and this person's doing this, and this person's doing, and now we can do IULs, and it's like it's so crazy that we almost, I think, get paralyzed by like there's all these different, now there's all these products. We keep adding products. I'm like every day I'm like, well, where did we get that new carrier? Like, do you guys have that carrier? Where did that come from? Right. So I think it's so awesome to see you. I'm like, Trey's doing a business overview meeting, and it's like Trey's been doing business overview meetings for the last 7, 8, 9 years that he's been in the business, and that's never changed. So I think that's super powerful. If you could kind of give them, the formula, like what is the basics? Like, what are the things, like, you said run, block, catch, tackle. Like, what are those things in the business that no matter what is not going to change in what you have to do, regardless of all this stuff?
Well, I think one of the main timeless truths that I learned early on was, the people change, the ways that we get the people change, the ways we reach the people change, the names change, the places change, but the story is always the same. And the story in this business is warm market. That is the story. Like if you recruit somebody off an ad or off of Instagram that does not know you, the best shot that that person has of building a business is sharing this opportunity with people that they know. It'll always be that way. And the reason why it will always be that way is because there is a trust factor involved in this business. People do business with people that they know, like, and trust is the single most important part of it. You're asking people when they get started to go put money on a credit card to buy leads. There's a certain amount of belief that's necessary for a person to do that. And so where there's not a relationship, you have to build a relationship to create enough trust for somebody to go do it. But when there already is a relationship, you'll work harder to help the people succeed because you don't want to let them down. They'll work harder because they don't want to let you down, and they'll believe you. And so the foundation of FFL always has been people sharing the opportunity with friends, family, and neighbors. That really is it. And colleagues, people they already have a relationship with. So I've just never forgotten that. My whole goal of recruiting someone cold market is so that I could help them share it with their friends. Because if you look at any leaderboard in the company, the top people on that leaderboard that was a friend of somebody that was in the business for the most part, 85% of the time. And I've done it and I continue to do it. Whether we do telesales, Zoom, smoke signals, it doesn't really matter how we sell. If we go through every leaderboard, it'll always end up that way. And so understanding that being the foundation, that's why I still focus on business opportunity meetings. Because the other thing is in this business, people buy people. And I think in it's relationship based. Like I think one of the things that happened, like during COVID, we were like, you couldn't keep us in our house. Like we were throwing off all restraints. We
We
were
were
we were meet,
essential.
we were essential meet people in hazmat suits. I ordered a hazmat suit off Amazon just so I could show up to an appointment in one. Like we would do whatever we had to do to get out in front of folks. And then when COVID was over, then everybody didn't want to leave their house no more. And all of a sudden people are like, well, I'm depressed and I'm confused. I don't know what to do. And I'm going to get into real estate. No, you just need to get out of your house. Because the reality is this is a really difficult business to do by yourself. And the thing that I understood early on, and Andrew Taylor taught this to me, is 60% of the people that we recruit are truly just unmotivatable. Like there really isn't anything you can do to get them to do it, like directly. Like if they don't want to do it and you want them to do it, and your whole goal is like, I'm going to convince this person to do it and drag them and pull them and make them and beg them and plead with them and whatever it is, like it really, there's nothing you can do. They're not going to do it no matter what you do. They'll sound like they're going to do it, but they won't. And then 27 out of 100 people, those people are motivatable. Those are the people that you could send a last minute text to and be like, hey, there's a call. You should get on it. And they're like, you know what? I should get on it. I'm going to get on the call. Those are the people that are in your Slack group that see Digna have a huge week and be like, oh, it's Saturday and Digna's making sales. I can make sales on a Saturday and go dial. Those are the people that are like, hey, the IUL workshop is tomorrow. You could do an overnight flight, whatever you got. And then they'll show up. Like somebody will show up like overnight because you said that. There's probably going to be a person. Like, where'd you come from? We came from Ohio. We got on a red eye. That's a motivatable person. That's 27 out of 100. 10 out of 100 are self-motivated people. That means they're going to do it with or without your influence. Now, that sounds really good, but the problem is with that, those are the ones you tend to leave alone, and those are the ones where your influence can make the biggest difference. That's why relationships are so important. Those are the ones you want to build the relationships with, because it's like pouring gas on a fire. That's a fundamental. That will never change. Those are the ones when they call that you answer. Those are the ones you call. Those are the ones you like to be around. Those are the ones you like to have conversations with. Those are the ones that you can overlook. I'm just going to throw a name out. I'm just as a story, and I'm sure this is not the case. But even if Digna got on your nerves half of the time, she tries so hard and she's so productive that you would overlook a lot of getting on nerve stuff and be like, I got to help Digna because she's so committed, she's trying, and she's self-motivated. And even if you got on her nerves half the time, she's still going to answer because she knows that you care. So those are the people where the influence makes a big impact. And then 3% of the people, those are the motivators. Those are the Marissas. Those are the Desis. Those are the, and I start naming names. I thought, I mess up when I do that because I can't remember everybody's name, which I will. I mean, I definitely can remember all you guys' name, but I don't want to like skip a bunch of names. But those are Andrew Taylor's, Grady's, Nina's, the ones that build the big businesses, right? So if that makes sense, what that means is 13 out of 100 are the ones that are going to do it with or without you. And if you can just remember that, it's easy not to get confused or frustrated when the people you thought were going to kill it don't, and when they don't kill it by the time you think they're going to kill it, and then the ones you don't think are, and then like 6 months later they're still doing it. Like that's a fundamental of the business. That's what it looks like. So
Yeah.
I feel like I got a little off track, but I was rolling.
No, that was great. And I love that too, because that talks about like, there's a lot of people on this call that want to build an agency, right? There's a lot of people that, and like Trey, for me, I wish that I had started like thinking about that earlier, because I get so emotionally invested in every single person, right? And which is important. You want to build those relationships, but then I'm like, sometimes I want it more than they want it, or, vice versa. So Trey, so as a new agent coming in on like the sales standpoint, right? So if you came in, or let's say you have a new agent that comes into your team, because I'm really bad at this, right? If Des is a brand new agent and she calls me and she's like, hey, Marissa, what leads should I get? I'm like, dude, just get any. There's so many. Like, I don't care. I don't care if you get internet leads, mortgage leads. I don't care if you get leads that can dropped off at your door. Like, I don't care if a stork drops them off or you got to, like, I don't care if you could generate your own, like, just get some dang things. And because there's so many options. So as you come in, as a brand new agent comes in, what are the fundamentals from the sales standpoint that you tell them, like, just do these 3 or 4 things and you're going to be fine?
Well, the first thing I try to get people to understand is the people that are having success in this business selling, there's 2 things. You're either not doing enough or you're doing something wrong. And 9.5 times out of 10, it really just comes down to you're not doing enough. And people, they confuse themselves because they say, so-and-so's on this lead type and so-and-so's on this lead type, and look how much they wrote. But the truth is they haven't built up that calloused sales muscle yet. There's people in the company that are helping 50 families a month off of internet leads. There's people in the company doing 50 families a month off of call-in leads that are old. There's people that are generating their own Facebook leads that are helping 50 families a month. There's people that are helping 50 families a month off IUL leads. There's people helping 50 families a month off of aged IUL leads, the second chance ones. So the thing that all those people have in common is they have a calloused sales muscle. They're doing the amount of time and the amount of effort doing the right activities long enough. Like, the thing that confused me most in the business early on was I didn't know what to track. Like, we used to only do in-home and we only have one type of lead. It was direct mail. And so Andrew had been in the business for quite a while and he was good at it. He had built up a skill set. So he could go out and in 3 days, he could help 10 families a week. And I was new. And what I thought I had to do was copy his schedule because he could help 10 families a week in 3 days and I could help like 4. And so I was really struggling. And I was like, well, I'm doing the same schedule. I'm doing, whatever it is. Like, and really, Sean got a hold of me and he said, look, this is what you're doing wrong. You need to work 40 hours. If Andrew can go out 25 hours a week and write 10 families, maybe you need to do 50 hours a week to do the same thing. And in the beginning, that's the easiest way to shorten your learning curve, is just to put more time in. Because anything you do, this is how you get better. Repetition is the mother of all skill and activity is the mother of all learning. What that means is you learn by doing and you get better by doing it again. And there's no way to shortcut that. So if I'm brand new, it's specifically in your team, Marissa, this is the way I would look at it, because you have a lot of different leaders. If Des, if she recruits somebody and she's doing a certain type of lead, then her team should just do the lead she's doing and be on Zoom dials with her. Like that's how I would focus. Like whatever she's doing, just do that. If if somebody else on the team is doing a different type, then the people they recruit, they should do that type. And then you as the leader should just encourage them to do what they're doing. I mean, that way it cuts through all the confusion, because if somebody can get to the point where they're helping 30 families a week off of veteran final expense leads, then they can help 30 families a week off of any type of lead, IUL leads, social media mortgage protection leads. And what they'll find out is it's pretty much the same time commitment. It's pretty much the same skill set. The objections are all the same. The techniques are all the same. The transitions are all the same. But if you look at it from a place of confusion and like trying to find the easier way, it looks totally confusing. Because what happens is the more you think about this, the harder it gets. Like we used to have an advantage back in the day when all we did was in home, because we'd just be like, hey, just set an appointment. And when you get an appointment, we'll tell you what to do. Like there was a true advantage to that, because it kept people out of that analysis paralysis where they were trying to figure out what step 10 was when they were still on step 1. So we got to get, that's a fundamental of the business too, is like, go as far as you can see. And when you get there, you'll be able to see further. But the most important word in that sentence is the go part, like the go part. The further it goes from you making a decision to do this and you not taking action, the harder it is to overcome that abyss of knowing and not doing. That's where the abyss is. Everybody knows what to do, but if they're not doing it, the further more time goes by before they do it, the harder that seems to be. But the person that just jumps in and takes action and realizes that you cannot say the wrong thing to the right person. If you get the right person on the telephone, even if it's the wrong time, you'll probably sell them because they want the insurance. That's the way it works. Now, people go, well, what about the leads? Well, so-and-so doesn't spend as much time on the phone because they use this type of lead. And you got to get past all that. That doesn't really matter. It's like Dominic Rogers taught me something a long time ago. He said, the ones that say no are just part of my marketing budget. Like those are the ones that are supposed to just say no. And I'm just trying to identify them as quickly as possible so I can find the ones that want to say yes. If you can remember that and realize that these customers, these clients, like they're not having Zoom calls together to try to figure out ways to frustrate you. Like they don't communicate with each other. And we tend to, in our mind, think that like, just because the last 2 calls didn't go right, that when we call Mary, she's going to do the same thing. Mary might be the one whose sister just died and she needs $30,000 of coverage because she doesn't want her kids to have a car wash like her sister's kids did, and she'll buy if you just call them. I mean, if you just call her, she's going to buy from whoever calls, if that makes sense. So, so getting started, what I would do is I would just basically model the person that's recruiting you. Whatever leads they're using, find out a way to use those leads. Get on the dial team with them. Don't wait for them to call you. You call them. Stay close to the fire. It's not someone's obligation to train you. It's not their responsibility to train you. It's your responsibility to learn. That's how I always looked at it. Because I didn't want to give the power away. If it was always up to Andrew to teach me what to do, then he had all the power. But it wasn't. It was up to me to learn. So regardless of what Andrew was going to do, I was going to learn. I took responsibility for that part. So what that did is it let Andrew off the hook for being a human in case he didn't answer a phone call one time, which he always answers phone calls. And it released him from any blame. And here's what he told me. He said, look, if you make it, it'll be because of you, and I'm not going to take the credit. If you fail, it'll be because of you, and I'm not going to take the blame. And I was like, all right, well, I vibe with that. So, and everybody on the call has that same opportunity. If you succeed, it'll be because of you. Marissa's not going to take the credit. If you fail, it'll be because of you, and it's not going to be her fault. It'll be your fault. It's not FFL's fault. It's your fault because the information is there, and your job is just to stay as close to the fire, ask questions, take action, The more you do, the more good questions you'll have. If people are frustrated with you as a new person because you keep asking the same stupid question and not doing anything, that's your fault. Like, don't fall into that trap. Go do some stuff and then ask the same stupid question again, and people have more patience. But that's on you too.
Yeah,
I
I
don't know
love
if
that.
that's too much.
No, that's perfect, Trey. And honestly, sometimes like obviously I'm so grateful for what we have here, but I was the same. Like when I started and the person that hired me, like I was like, what do I do? They're like, pick up the phone. And that was the only direction I got, right? Because I was like, okay, I'll dial the phone. Then they were like, don't call me till you book appointments. Then when you book appointments, I'll tell you what to do at the appointments. And I was like, okay, cool. So I'll go to the appointment. So it was like, you're so tunnel vision on just that one next step that I didn't have time to think about like, what about America versus prosperity versus ethos versus this versus that? What's my comp on this? Like, I was just like, they just told me to book the appointments. So then I got to the appointment and I was in the home guys calling and I'm like, I would call Trey. Hey, Trey, I'm here with Miss Mary. This is what she has going on. What do I do? And he'd be like, write America. And I'd be like, what's America? And he'd be like, really? Like, just log into your portal. You got the agent number the other day. Like, and it really is that easy, Trey. And it's so funny because everyone, I feel like, not everyone, but it's like you want to know so much and you don't realize that like there's no prize for knowing a lot because what we do is not hard, right? Like I had a new agent, Trey. I had a new agent that, and this just speaks to my point, that made a sale the other day. Been here like literally half a second, made a sale, probably doesn't even know the portals, doesn't even know what carriers we work with, but guess what? Picked up the phone and called the people. Then when he got the person on the phone, asked for help. I'm like, do this. He's like, oh my goodness, I made a sale. And then I have agent B, they've been studying the products for like a month, studying the products. I want to know how to do each application. I want to know how to do this. I want to know how to do that. And it's like, I love you, dude. Now you're the most knowledgeable person to never make a sale. And this person over here just jumped in, hardly knows his agent, just got on the phone, talked to people, got lucky. Someone said, hey, yes, I've been looking for that. And now they have sales. Like you can't cheat the activity. Right. So that's what I'm always trying to explain to people. You can know as much about the products as you want to know. I'm like, congratulations. You're the most knowledgeable. You're more knowledgeable than me because you studied the products so long. But this person over here is just writing the products because they're just going boom, action and failing forward and getting on the phone and getting the objections. And then boom, someone said yes. And they're like, putting them on mute. Like, I can't believe they said yes. And I'm like, yeah, write the app. And they're like, what do I click? And the reality is like, you want that, congratulations, you can know all the stuff to know, but if you don't put it into action, it's like, there's no prize for, hey, Trey knows the most about the products. I don't know anything about the products, Trey. And these guys are asking me. I'm like, I don't know. I wasn't even, did we have ethos? I don't
There's
know.
a cheat sheet. Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know. What are you talking about? Right. So I love that so much that you say that. Like, guys, just call the clients. You're going to get lucky. Some of them are going to say yes. And that's how you're going to get better. Otherwise, you can study and study and study and study and try every which software and dialer system and everything. And you want to try every single lead thing, be my guest. But this guy over here will just be making sales because he just called the person and the person said yes. And he didn't really have to be that good at it. He just did it. Right. So I think that's so powerful, Trey. And it's so funny because it's like you get so grateful for how much we evolved. But then sometimes I'm like, it's like that.
Man.
Oh, it was uphill both ways. Like Trey, you were writing paper applications. Is that not true?
Yeah, that's true. I wasn't doing a very good job of it either.
And then you had to fax them into underwriting, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And then you have
Crazy.
to go back and but what's so interesting, see, this is another one of those timeless truth things because you find agents that just take all out massive action and then they have success for like the first 90 days. And then comes the sales slump. And what happens during the sales slump is they get smart. They know stuff now. They know the underwriting guidelines. They know what an IUL is. They understand the difference between 1 year point to point and 2 year point to point. They know what a 1035 exchange, like they know all this stuff. And then they can't sell their way out of a paper bag. So a way that you always have to get back to basics in this business, like I've been selling, I helped 10 families last month. All right. I could do more. I'm going to get better. But when I wasn't selling it, I was relying on my charisma and great insurance selling skills. When I started selling, I literally just read the script. I read it. If they interrupted me, I went back a line and started just to see. And I started closing. It was unbelievable. We make it way too hard. And the thing is, everybody's fear is it's going to make it look like you don't know what you're doing. It actually helps you when you look like you don't know what you're doing because these people don't want to be sold anyway. So if you don't know what you're doing, you can't scam them. That's how they look at it. The person that's super smooth, that knows the answer to every single thing, like if you're not selling, just dumb it down and go back and read the thing and watch what happens. I've gotten out of more, I've gotten out of more sales slumps literally by doing that and playing dumb than any other thing. I don't know if that's helpful, but somebody needs to hear that. So
Yeah, no, it is, Trey, and it's so true, because even to this day, and I'm not scared to admit it, my 3 best months in the business were my first 3 months. Because then after that, I started to overthink it. Like, it's when you don't have expectations for yourself and you're like, dude, I don't know what's going to happen if they answer the phone, if they don't, if they do, if they say yes, if they say no, like, I don't even know what's going to happen. Like, I'm good. We're in this together, Mr. Client. Like, I know just as much as you know, Mr. Client. We're figuring it out. It's like, you don't put this pressure on yourself. And to this day, once you got smart and you started overthinking it and you started thinking about all the products and what do I do and what's the best option and all this stuff, I have never sold that much anymore that I did my first 90 days as a brand new agent. It's like the new agent, it's like the curse of the getting too smart, right? So I
yes,
do think that's so important, guys. Like, just, it's literally so simple, that we just have to keep it that way. And Trey, I'd love if you can, because I know you started part-time, you talked about, and I think that's really, really important, because a lot of times, for some people, part-time, you know, we can't figure out the schedule. So we have a lot of part-timers coming in, you know, they're not in a point where they're going to like jump off the cliff and quit their job, because that's not a good idea. But what's your suggestion for how do they schedule that? What does that mean? When do they sell? How much activity should they be putting in? What did that look like for you?
well, I think that's probably the most challenging part of the business, to be honest with you. Being learning to employ yourself is the hardest part. Um, and learning to treat it like a business and actually investing in leads without all the fear of like the things that can go wrong. Like those are the two hardest things. So when you have a job and you don't have the financial stress of having to make it work, um, and you have a structured schedule where you show up at this time, and if you don't show up at this time to do insurance, then insurance doesn't get done. That structure actually helps quite a bit. You just need to lean into it and leverage it. Like for me, I was working Monday through Friday, 40, 50 hours a week. And what I would do is on Thursday nights, I would dial for Saturday. And Friday night, I would dial for Sunday afternoon. And I would only do Sunday afternoon every other week. So I'd go to church once a week or whatever. You know, I did do that. So once every other week. So that's what it looked like. Now, if I didn't show up to dial on Thursday night, then I didn't have appointments on Saturday. When I went full time, the challenge was I got all week to dial. I got all this time. So rather than like book 40 appointments for the week, I just thought about working, which is just as exhausting as actually working. So the people that tend to get stuff done are busy people that don't have a lot of time. So use that to your advantage. If you're doing this part-time and you only have Saturday, then be on the dial team 30 minutes before everybody else on Saturday. Be excited with a cup of coffee, have your script out, have your leads ready, have purchase leads before, show up with a good attitude, do what you have to do to keep your attitude right, and then just focus on getting the reps in without the necessity of making a sale to pay your bills. That is a blessing when you have that. It is. Now, it's also a blessing to have your back against the wall too, because you can get a lot of stuff done when you have to get something done. So I've had it both ways. I've had it where I didn't have the sales pressure, and then I've had it where like I have to make payroll Friday and it's Wednesday. So if I don't sell something tomorrow, somebody ain't getting paid. So I've had that too, and that works real well too. But hopefully that makes sense as far as the part-time schedule. That's how I looked at it. It was, and then the way I went full time. This is how I went full time. I got to the point where I was paying all of my bills part time with my FFL money and covering the cost of my leads, and the money from my job I would save. And I did that for like 3 months. And once I was able to do that for 3 whole months, I was like, well, of course I could go full time, you know, easily and not have to worry about anything. Like I got this. So did I answer the question or no?
Yes, you did answer the
Okay.
question, which I love that. And to me, like Trey, I was the type of person like, and I think part-time, I respect anybody who does it, because I just knew that if my back wasn't against the wall, I don't know that I would have picked up the phone. So I was that second option. Whereas like, dude, I got to pay my rent on the first, so I need to make sales and I can't have a backup option because I knew that if I had a backup option, I would just like, so I do a lot of respect to the part-time people who have to figure out that schedule and make sure you show up and, you kind of have that financial security. That's sometimes tougher than being like, I'm drowning here and I got to figure out how to swim. So
Right.
it makes total sense. So Trey, I know kind of last question. So this business is amazing. Obviously the opportunity keeps getting better. I think it's the best sales opportunity and just the best opportunity in general, obviously for what it's done for our lives, but there's some days that suck. So, Trey, have you ever wanted to quit, or obviously you had hard days, and how did what do you tell yourself? How do you not quit on the days when you're like, dang, that kind of sucked?
Um, so there's a couple ways to answer this. The first thing is you have to have a good sense of humor and a bad memory. So you need to be able to laugh stuff off and forget about it. That's that's the first advantage I had because I can find humor in just about anything and just move on. The place where I've grown the most in this business is emotional intelligence. The ability to not care so much about everything. Like maybe that's really not that big of a deal. And if I just don't dwell on it all the time, it's not going to bother me that much. The other thing is environment. A small problem when you're around the wrong people can feel like the worst problem of all time. But a big problem around the right people doesn't feel like a problem at all. So
Wow.
and I've never said that before. That is good. Y'all
I
send me
like
that.
that.
I'm gonna start saying that more
I'm
often.
writing it down right now, Trey. That's huge.
But that's the truth. Andrew Taylor and Sean both have the gift of this isn't as big a problem as you thought it. Okay, so I'm gonna tell y'all. Okay, this is recorded. I'm gonna tell you something. All right, just so
We can block it out. We get to edit it.
okay. So last week, um, my wife goes and looks at the bank account, and our bank account was frozen. And I'm like, that's never happened before. I don't know. Like we paid taxes, like we paid them, like everything should be okay. We call the bank, they can't give us any information. They give us his phone number and say you got to call it tomorrow. And I'm doing all these Google searches, like I wonder what this is. And my wife is freaked out, and I'm just like, it'll be all right. And literally, like I made it like it was no big deal. Well, it turns out it was the employment development department, and they'd been sending me a letter to an old address because when I stopped paying my employees and Integrity started paying my employees and I stopped, there was a form that they needed signed. So the only way they could get my attention was to freeze my bank account. So when I called in, they were like, hey, we've been sending mail to the wrong place. We're glad you called. You need to complete this form. So I completed the form and they took the freeze off. And I was like, all right, cool, we're good. But something like that, like people would just be freaked out of their mind. And I was just, my muscle says, not that big of a deal. We'll compartmentalize this. We'll keep it moving. I'll still do my recruiting calls. I'll still make these couple sales. Like I kept moving. When I started in the business, there's no way I would have been able to do something like that. That would have froze me up for like a month. I'd have
Yeah.
been afraid. Like, what else did I forget to do? Um, so that's a big part of it. Your environment is a big part of it. Being around people that don't let you dwell on things. Like the most common thing that would happen when I would call Andrew Taylor up, and at first I didn't like it. I thought he was being dismissive, and I didn't think he liked me. And so at first it would bother me. So I'd call him up, and I'd be like, this, and this, and he'd be like, so, so what? And I'm like, what do you mean, so what? This, and this. And he's like, I know, dude, but keep going. All right, later. And then you get on the phone.
Yeah, he does do
And
that. He just says later and hangs up. And you're like,
yeah,
okay, Andrew, bye.
but because he didn't give energy to it, I couldn't sit there in the drama. So you have to get people around you that are like that and then appreciate that. Like that's the easiest way not to quit is just get a posse of people that have a good attitude, that are moving forward, that don't allow you to complain and you don't allow them to complain. And if you don't have that, keep looking for it. Like focus on your environment. I ask people all the time, you know, how many people here have ever been to a bar? And they're like, a bunch. And I'm like, how many people have ever had a drink at a bar? And then a bunch of people raise their hand. And I'm like, how many people have been to church? And a bunch. And I'm like, how many people have had a drink in church? Not communion though. And then, there's always like one. But for the most part, like nobody raises their hand because it's hard to do the wrong thing in the right environment. It's hard to do the wrong thing when all the positive peer pressure around you just says, hey, just keep dialing till 6. Like that happens to everybody. Like you're on the dial team and you see Digna go through it, and then she doesn't sell, like the first half of the day is terrible and people hang up on her and they're mad, and then she sells 2 in a row. And then you're like, okay, yeah, that's how it works. Like glue yourself to that environment. That's how you make it work. Stay close to the fire. Celebrate other people's success. That's a huge key to not quitting. Is if you're celebrating everybody else's success like we're all winning, then we're winning. That's how I would trick myself into winning. I celebrate Andrew's success. Andrew wrote a $500,000 annuity. I was running around telling everybody. I didn't even know how he was going to get paid. They're like, how much you can pay? I'm not getting paid nothing. But he wrote one. And I would be just as excited when he did. And then people are like, you need to get excited about your own success. And I'm like, this is how I get excited about my own success. This is actually how I do that. This is the way I'm tricking myself to do it. Because if I'm running around talking about my results right now, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And the thing I knew was that if you just did it long enough, that you had to get good at it. You can't do the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over and over again and not eventually build up some skill at it. And as long as you don't get discouraged by the people that seem to build up the skill a lot faster than you, that's the thing. People compare themselves. You can't grow from where you think you should be. You can only grow from where you're actually at. And if you could just remember that and realize everybody comes to the starting line at a different place, but we can all finish, eventually it has to work out.
So true. Trey, when your bank account was frozen or like in situations like that, do you ever think like, what would Sean say right now? I feel
Yeah,
like
that's what I always think.
sometimes I think about that and I'm like, he'd be like, you don't even need that stupid asshole bank account. Like, just keep going, Trey. Just go out and sell some more insurance.
That's right.
And then you're just like, okay, I just need to chill.
That's right. You need to get on the phone and dial.
Yeah, he'd be like, seriously, Trey, just dial the phone. What do you even need that bank account for? And it's so true because it's like that's such a good point. And like when you said that, I was like, oh, I would just be thinking about like, and I do that too all the time. I think I have these big problems and then it's just like everyone's like, whatever. And then you're like, okay, maybe it's not that big of a deal. I think that's huge. Well, Trey, this has been phenomenal. Thank you for hanging out with us. This has been great. We really needed this. I thought this was perfect. And again, we just look up to you and hopefully you'll see some of our squad tomorrow at the IUL training. And, thanks for all you do for us. So we're excited to have you and thank you again.
I can't wait. Y'all come say hi if you're here. All right. Have a good one.
Okay. Bye, Trey. Thanks so much. All right, guys, let's get back on the phones. And if not, I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Back here, same time, same place.